Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 24 of Code Geass R2. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, Schneizel and Lelouch's various factions have gotten into a big battle. And while it seemed like things were going in Schneizel's favor, Lelouch has pulled out what seems to be a victory. Unfortunately, Nunnally has sided with Schneizel, and more importantly, she's got her finger on the big red nuclear button, and she's already pressed it once. You know, I sort of assumed that once all the dust had settled, Nunnally would be a good choice to sit on the throne as, like, you know, a good morally upstanding person, but I feel like I can't necessarily say that anymore. Although, it seems as though she's regretful, which, that's a mark in her favor, I suppose. Now, given that Nunnally seemed regretful to press the little red button, I get the feeling that she's not too likely to continue dropping nukes from the Damocles. So, the question is, how is this battle ultimately going to go? You know, I get the feeling that Lelouch is going to be the victor, but at what cost, you know? Because, like, I'm sure he has no qualms about killing Schneizel, obviously, but despite how he would present himself, I don't think he would be willing to kill Nunnally if it came down to it. So I guess this is the final question, you know? Will Lelouch sacrifice even Nunnally in order to bring about a gentler world, even if Nunnally was ostensibly the intended benefactor of a more gentle world? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Lelouch is willing to kill Nunnally. Like, he's certainly willing to pretend, and to sort of say to her face that, you know, if they're enemies now, then that's it, but, you know, actions speak louder than words, and I feel like if it came down to it, I don't think he could pull the trigger, so to speak. Although, thinking about it, I feel like not everything is entirely up to him, because Suzaku seems to be resolved to do things even when Lelouch is faltering, and I feel like, you know, despite their partnership, I guess, you know, working together towards a common goal, I feel like things might hit the fan preemptively if Suzaku acts outside of Lelouch's orders to take Nunnally out of the equation. Even if he's not necessarily targeting Nunnally specifically, but if, you know, it were to just happen, if she were a casualty. Yeah, that would be interesting, I guess. It would be very bad, however. Although I guess Suzaku is a bit more focused on Jinki right now, so he's probably not capable of causing such a problem as I've described. Although that said, I feel like Jinki's not long for this world, and that's gonna have consequences because Tianzi, even though she's ostensibly a hostage right now, I feel like there will be repercussions. I say that, but repercussions can really only take place in just under 2 episodes, so... there's not a lot of time here, but I feel like things seem like they're kind of on track to wrap up. Like, it's gonna be explosive for sure. Ooh. Alright, so it seems like in spite of everything that the battle's turning again. The Avalon has been damaged, Lelouch's flagship. And this was after he pulled off that massive trick with the volcano. Oh, that guy. Deeply unfortunate. Okay, well, he's not dead yet. I figure at some point, like, some of these Black Knights have to start dying, right? Like, now would be the appropriately dramatic time for something like that, but it seems like at every turn, people are just sort of surviving by the skin of their teeth. When the ship Ogi was on crashed, I figured he was a goner. Especially considering that Valletta was, previously talking to him and holding her stomach in a very, indicative sort of way, I guess. So, I figured him dying would be, like, basically a given, and he hasn't done that yet. Although that said, given that he's effectively the emotional core of the Black Knights, I can only assume he will probably die at some point anyways. Probably by Lelouch's hand. Ooh. So Nina's working with Lelouch now. This is interesting. I'm wondering what her motivation is for this. Like, is it she recognizes that nuclear proliferation is now bad? That, she gave this weapon to a madman like Schneisel who's using it to bomb civilian populations? Ah, man. I was kind of ragging on her in the previous episode, and, not incorrectly, but she's a fair bit more complex than perhaps I gave her credit for. We haven't seen any resolution to that package she was carrying when Revels was driving her around, so I'm wondering if she just handed off a little bit of tech to Lelouch. Now, Lelouch is making big statements again. C2 saying, like, what if Nunnally stands in the way of the Zero Requiem? And he's like, well, whatever happens, happens. Man. That's certainly a thing you can say, but I don't know if he's going to be able to go through with it should the time come. Ooh. Okay. It's interesting that Lelouch and C2 seem to be having a moment just for Kallen to burst in. Because she's likely in no great emotional state herself, considering all the goings-on. So I guess what's more interesting is that it's C2 and Kallen fighting. Because, there is a little bit of subtext here, they're both sort of competing for Lelouch's affection in their own kind of way. Although that said, I can't imagine C2's gonna be the victor, what with Kallen and the Guren, with that radiation weapon especially. Ooh. So that's interesting. With the prospect of Lelouch entering the field himself, Schneisel seems to be redirecting the Flesia to something else, which it's rather unsettling that Nunnally is still just pushing the button. I feel like at some point you kind of have to question what you're doing and consider that maybe you shouldn't be doing this. But I guess this is this is the point of Nina's collaboration here. She's figured out a sort of workaround here. And I guess this workaround is what's going to save Lelouch, you know. Schneisel was hoping to just nuke him, but I guess he's not going to have to worry about it. Ooh, that's an interesting little device there, a little spear like that. Really puts me in mind of Evangelion, you know, a little lance of Longinus, as it were. So it is also interesting that everyone sort of has a vested interest in this little bomb being stopped, because otherwise they're all dead. It is interesting that they sort of went in on a theory here. You know, it ended up working, which I feel like Nina's going to take as a good sign that, you know, Euphemia from beyond the grave has helped her out here. Oh dear. So I guess this is about it then. You know, Lelouch got a little strike force in through the shields around the Damocles. Man. You know, I feel like this really does bode poorly for Nunnally. I mean, at the very least, she's dropped the little control module, so, you know, she can't launch any more nukes, and I feel like, not to be crass, but like, a blind cripple isn't gonna find the thing, you know? Like, odds are not good. And I feel like perhaps it was a slight oversight on Schneisel's part to not only give her the button, but also to leave her kind of unattended. You know, I don't know, Schneisel doesn't seem to be a person who remarkably cares about anyone other than himself. You know, like, Lelouch wouldn't have done something like this with Nunnally, I don't think, and even if he did, I feel like, you know, he would have been right there at the very least. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. It was another nightmare for him. I thought, like, the guy just, like, tripped and crashed. That would be very unfortunate this late in the game, but no, it's Gino, you know? And I figured, like, seeing as how he hadn't died, this is probably a guy that needs to be taken care of. Seeing as how he's just kind of, slicing through Lelouch's nightmare frame, which has got to be souped up to some degree, like, this isn't good. Although I feel like Suzaku's probably in a position to beat him handily. Oh dear. Very unfortunate for Lelouch to be down one nightmare frame and just sort of advancing on foot, because I feel like, as dangerous as the Geass makes him, you know, I don't think he has a weapon, and he's in, like, an enemy ship here. You know, like, I don't imagine Schneisel's a remarkable combatant or anything, but I feel like he's got at least a ceremonial sidearm that is functional. And I suppose he would have bodyguards too. I mean, right now, you know, it's his advisor, I believe, in that good old journalist who's always morally upstanding. You know, I feel like it wouldn't be out of place if Lelouch were to just shoot all three of them. Would kind of be a fitting end, I guess. Ooh. Wow. Okay, so they're just abandoning Nunnally. Like, they referred to her as bait, and they're just saying, like, oh yeah, no, like, world peace versus one life. Yeah, I think I know a choice I'm gonna make. That's a remarkably crass thing to do, especially when Nunnally is family. Ah, man. Well, hopefully good old Agent Orange here will, you know, fix things here and catch up, because I feel like he is, if nothing else, duty-bound to protect Nunnally as well. I mean, he's probably operating on orders from Lelouch, so he's got his work cut out for him, but man, I guess in retrospect it makes sense why they left Nunnally alone. You know, she was not intended to survive, but man, for someone who's just consistently been raked over the coals, Nunnally really doesn't deserve any of this. So, like I sort of predicted earlier, it seems like Callan is just beating C2 relentlessly. Now, we know this isn't the end of C2, regardless of what happens. Given that she's immortal and all that. Oh, that is interesting that, she cares about winning and losing in a situation like this. Presumably because the battle was a proxy conflict for who wins Lelouch's affections. Ooh. What was the meaning of that, I wonder? Nunnally distraught, looking for the key, saying, like, I need to stop my brother, and then just slowly turning her head in the direction of the key. I wonder if she's, overcome her psychosomatic blindness. That would be something, alright, but, oh boy, there's a whole host of implications that come with that. Suddenly no longer being blind, seeing everything, and then deciding to, drop another nuke. Okay, so Lelouch is just talking to Schneisel about how he only plays games he knows he won't lose. I wonder what Lelouch is playing at here, because he makes it seem as though he's engineered a situation where his victory is ensured. But, the circumstances behind that, I'm not sure what they would be at this point in time. Ooh. So this is interesting that the maid here is now betraying Lelouch. What she's saying might be true that, we were only capitulating because we were threatened, but, I don't know. She's been, borderline treacherous before, and not to Lelouch, so I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. And I guess, interestingly, Cornelia has somehow survived, which is nice. She didn't deserve to die like that. Ooh. Okay, so, it seems like her knight survived after all, and, the poor guy, he was suffering for sure after everything that happened, and oh man, he's probably got a bone to pick with Lelouch about all this stuff. I can't help but imagine we're being shown that because it's going to be relevant later. Alright, so Lelouch is getting all philosophical with Schneisel here. And I'm wondering what the purpose is, I can't help but wonder if he's trying to buy time, He's saying, look, you're interested about today, I'm interested about tomorrow. But, I really can't help but feel that this is a ploy for time, and I'm wondering if, he's just sort of hoping for Agent Orange to show up. Because, I feel like of all his minions, Jeremiah is really the only one Lelouch can implicitly count on. So I feel like everyone else, as evidenced by the maid recently, everyone else is subject to some level of betrayal, Alright, so I guess, they're just gonna wax philosophical for a little bit, back and forth a little bit, things about masks and Geasses and, you're the hypocrite, no, you're the hypocrite, you take away people's free will and all that. Ooh. Okay, so Lelouch has just bamboozled him. I guess, he tricked him into accepting what wasn't actually a video call so he could sneak up and Geass him. So, I guess that's it then. He won't kill Schneisel after all. Schneisel will presumably serve him. Unless, of course, oh, no, yeah. Schneizel will do whatever he wants from now on. I figured it was going to be like, hey, Schneizel, commit toaster bath or something, but I guess not. Wow, in the end, the journalist, what a surprise. Although I guess it is good he was shot. I approve. I just kind of wish Schneizel had shot him in the head rather than center mass, Wow. I guess I was wrong about a couple things. I assumed Schneizel would die and perhaps even mutually kill Lelouch, but, whoa, buddy. There we go, Lelouch. Just kick him while he's down. Screw you, Deeded. You're not even worth using Geass on. Alright, Lelouch is redeemed of all his misdeeds. He is a hero now. Ah, boy. So now that Schneizel's under control, I guess he has sort of conveniently revealed that Nunnally's still in all sorts of danger. The question is, will they be in time to save her? Because, we got that little fake out with the bombing of Tokyo. Oh, no. Oh, I've got a bad feeling about this. Gino destroyed the shield. This leaves Suzaku vulnerable to Kellen's radiation weapon, but I feel like she's gonna ping the Damocles too. Although, maybe not, Nunnally and Lelouch are encountering one another. To what end, I don't know. Lelouch is sort of pretending to be like a good older brother, but, oh wow. I was right, she can see. Wow. This is interesting, that, Nunnally would be able to undo the Emperor's Geass on her of her own will. I guess the question now is, will Lelouch cross that final line to use the Geass on Nunnally? I really certainly hope not, Oh boy. Ah, jeez. I guess once again I'm kind of worried about how this is going to end. Like, a lot happened in this episode, but I feel like for a satisfactory ending, a lot more needs to happen, and, we're down to one episode. Things just keep happening and getting crazier and crazier and crazier. Oh boy, when will the madness end? Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.